I used to cry in class. And when people ask me, oh, are you okay? I'm like, it's alright, I just have a cold. To have a little bit of background, I'm not smart.
That's not true, but go on.
I'm never the top one. First of all, I cannot believe we are talking about architecture. You know, Beijing, it extends in rings.
Yep.
We have 一环, 二环,
Yep.
三环, 四环, 五环.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people say that about their degrees. They feel like they bullshit all the way here. Like making up essays, and now we have ChatGPT. The amount of emotional damage it brought me. If something happened to me that makes me really sad, I call my mom, say I'm sad.
The sad stuff would be great for a documentary, while the happy stuff would be great for presenting.
Oh my god, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, you just said it all. It's basically two things. One is to give growing up having a stomach problem. I am slim. I was so nervous that I wouldn't have much to talk about, but wow, that was a great interview. Thank you for digging them out.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year and welcome back to my podcast, Coffee's on me, David Quan, where I strive to give guests legacy-worthy interviews that listeners can enjoy while cooking, commuting, relaxing or walking their pets. Lent term at Cambridge is fully underway and I'm recording another episode in my room at Clare College, University of Cambridge. My guest and I are enjoying a latte together. We are approaching 10,000 podcast downloads, and if you have been enjoying the discussions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, please do consider leaving a review and nominating a guest by contacting me via my Linktree, David Quan. A highlight has been seeing this podcast on people's Spotify Wraps for 2022. I cannot thank all the guests enough for their courage and insights. For those new to the podcast, welcome and thank you for your engagement. When I started this podcast at a low point of my time in Cambridge, I was mostly nervous about humiliating myself, but I did have 3 ideals which made up the content description. First, a purpose of giving. Second, learning from others. And a third, sharing of stories. I'll be the first to recognise that my communication, empathy and knowledge are still very much a work in progress, but I do hold the deep conviction that this passion project, if wholly true to the founding motivations about giving, learning and sharing, is a worthwhile pursuit. Indeed, as I said earlier, it is the guests who deserve so much credit for their courage and insights. I'm so excited today to be hosting my guest, Jingli. Jingli is a third-year international student at Trinity College studying architecture. She sees herself as a problem solver tackling complex and contradictory matters, both those posed by life and those of her own making. Growing up in Beijing, she's familiar with competitive educational system and developed her own methods for building the appropriate level of confidence. She has been in the UK since GCSEs, progressing northward from Kent to Surrey and to Cambridge. Jingli is currently the president of Cambridge University Chinese Undergraduate Society, CCS, and is a choral scholar at King's Voice, King's College, Cambridge. She is filled with excitement at the prospect of what her future may hold, despite the uncertainty of life. Jingli, it's nice that you've made it here. Welcome to my podcast, Coffee's on me, David Quan.
Hi. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy and scared. Never done this before, but I trust you. So let's see how it goes.
Thank you very much for your trust. Have you listened to any previous episodes of the podcast then?
Oh, yeah.
Who have you listened to?
Yo-Yo, Lucy Williams, Mona, Jack Hu. A lot of them.
Awesome. They're pretty cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think after this, hopefully, people will start listening to you. So.
Your choice, people.
How was your morning?
Rough. As you can tell, rough. I was late for a meeting.
Good things take time, that's all right.
Yeah. And it turns out that I went to the wrong facility, so I was even later. I'm really sorry about that. That was not a good start.
Don't worry, it often happens.
Gemini.
So, let's start with your move from China to UK.
Mm-hmm.
When did you make this move? And I know that from our conversations, it's been a very important transition for you.
So I moved in 2016 officially. to do GCSEs. And yeah, so before that, I was in Beijing. My school was called, in short, it's called SDSZ, which is quite well known. It's a really good and academic institution. And I got in there because I'm good at singing. So at that point, they have like a route for people who have their like, how do you say 特长?
Like talents.
Yeah, 特长生. We call that 特长生.
You got in because of your talents in singing, so it was like a special track almost.
Yes. Yep. So we did competitions and whatever. So if they have me, they'll have a strong member in the choir, which will do more competitions. So that's why I got into 实验中学, as they said. Yeah, and things start to go down in a way because I'm not as academic as the others, even though I try really hard. And the thing is, every midterm and every end of term exam, we have a rank and a bigger rank. So within the class, you will have a rank. You will know how you rank in your class. And also within the year. So out of 500 people, you will know where you're at. And thanks God that wasn't public, otherwise you wouldn't see me right here.
So how competitive was the kind of special track with singing?
Oh, to be honest, when you got into the school, it doesn't make much sense anymore. It's only when I got to... So secondary school in China is years 7 to 9. It's at the end of year 8 when I realized, haha, I'm not here to sing. I'm here to do work like all the other people.
So were they doing the Gaokao system or was it...
Oh, yes, of course. So it's year 7 to year 9 and you do 中考, which is middle test.
Which is
and
stressful.
You move on to year 10 to year 12 and that's where you do your 高考.
So had you stayed in China, would you have gone through the Gaokao?
Yes, that would be certain because that's the only way for you to get to a uni.
Okay, and were you always set on moving to a foreign country or were you also contemplating staying in China and going down that path?
Oh, I have no idea.
Like, when did you decide to leave the country?
It was pretty spontaneous because my parents and I, we traveled to UK. We traveled to the UK. We traveled to Cambridge. And I'm like, haha, I'm going to go here. But in a jokey way, though, because I was so young. It was 2015. And then when I got back, I was becoming more and more anxious about how this 中考 is going to take me. Because I can't... It's hard to do like a talent route again. I can't just get into a good high school with my singing. There's just no way doing that. So where am I going to go? Am I still going to have a future?
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you got to the UK, I mean, a lot of international students often find there's a cultural shock and there's just, different standards for things and different culture and different philosophies to education. How did you find the transition? Was it difficult? Was it easy?
I feel like it was not that hard for me because I'm pretty chill.
And you're very sociable as well. I don't know if that was always the case, but you're very good with people and good sense of humour, which I'm sure helps.
It took time for me to develop this skill too. When I first arrived, I spent most of the time observing how people here like talk and whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit overwhelmed at first. So I went to a school in Kent, in Tunbridge Wells, and it's all girls, which is nice. And yeah, I used to cry in class, and when people ask me, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "It's alright. I just have a cold."
Okay. Do you mind sharing, like, why was it? Were you missing home? Did you feel lonely?
Yeah, a bit of everything. It's just complicated. And when I feel like, okay, I'm sitting there, my English is not good enough for me to understand every single thing that the teacher said. And here's a question in front of me, which I'm not sure what the answer is. And all this mixture of feelings made me really sad. And I couldn't hold it. Yeah. But it's not like cry.
Yeah, very understandable. I mean, I moved to Australia when I was 5, so it was relatively easier to learn a different language at that age and a different culture. But as a student leader at my school, for example, often I see people moving from another country like at a variety of different ages, and it's such a tough thing to do. And often people just assume, well, if you need help, just ask for help. But actually, sometimes people just don't know what to ask. It's just that feeling of overwhelmingness, that feeling of insecurity and uncertainty that they themselves can't even pinpoint. So when do you think you had really felt like you belonged in the new community, that you were able to fully engage?
I feel like not until I started my A-levels, like fully, when I'm comfortably like doing everything.
Did you keep up your singing then once you got to the UK?
Yes, it's always been there.
Okay. And how did it work? Did you have private lessons? Did you sign up to the school choir? Was there an outside club or something?
It's basically the school choir is normally the first place I kind of go to when I arrive at a new place, like the sense of community and people doing the same thing. So it's like singing lessons, choirs is always in the background.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What type of singing are you most familiar with? Like what genre?
It's just the stuff you do with your grading test, with ABRSM, that kind of stuff. That's how I learn it, even though it's not necessarily right. Until I got up to Cambridge, I'm still having private lesson with my singing teacher, Miss Groove's amazing singing teacher. And she kind of changed the way I see singing, because when I was younger, I sing to do the grade test, and I need to obtain a good mark to prove that I'm good. So for a while, I've been singing for the grades. Yeah, and that's how I got into my secondary school, so it means something. But now it's just for fun, and I get to go to King's twice a week, which is nice. Yeah.
You sing next to Lucy, is that right?
I do.
She's amazing. I don't know if she'll be listening to this, but I really enjoyed.
I love you, Lucy.
Well, over the Christmas holidays, we went to the Royal Albert Hall to watch Christmas carols, and basically I found out then that Lucy sings for Great Britain, which is like incredible.
Oh, I did not know that.
She's very humble about it.
Yeah, she's a really good singer.
So I'm still trying to understand a bit about this transition that you've had from China to the UK. So your first kind of community that you feel is accessible was the choir, the singing group. What else did you find? What other groups or people?
With the choir, it's more like the thing we did. Not necessarily the people there, but yes, I have friends who also sings in the choir. It's more like international student kind of just being the group of international students. You all share the similar journey and stuff. Yeah. And so that's pretty much the thing. And when you are sitting in a dining hall, international students sitting together and local students are like there. Right. Yeah. It wasn't until I moved to Woldingham, which is the school I went to in Surrey, that I felt more belonging in the community.
Why did you move schools?
I just feel like I want to change. Okay. I just want a new environment to do A-levels. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Yeah. Right.
Sorry. And academically, though, you mentioned how in China it was quite competitive and you felt like you were a bit behind. I'm assuming now...
bit.
But I'm assuming that, given that you're at Cambridge now, did you kind of find your 2 feet academically in the UK? Did you feel like you belonged in that sense?
So, to have a little bit of background, I'm not smart.
That's not true, but go on.
I'm never the top ones in class, and I have to work really hard to be in a good position. So academic has never been like easy peasy for me, no. Yeah. And I had the grade for Cambridge. It wasn't that hard, right?
It wasn't that hard.
As long as you have 2 A's and an A, you can apply to Cambridge. So I did apply to Cambridge. And I feel like what got me in here is my portfolio, because that's the most important thing for an architecture student, is to present your portfolio, a power of your work. And you take the interviewers through your work. And if they find it interesting, and your personal statement and stuff. I feel like my interview went really well. Grade is just a standard of boundaries. After you pass the boundary, you can. Your personality still matter.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, were you always set on architecture then?
In a way, yeah, because it's especially before choosing what A-levels to do, knowing that could lead my future to some extent. So I did the ones that would benefit an architecture degree, which is maths, physics, art, classic.
So a lot of my architecture friends, back in school, they would have like a portfolio. Like they would, as a kid, they would be taking on these side kind of hustles and creative projects that would have prepared them. What were your like extra or super curricular activities? I say so for education, for example, for my degree or history or whatever it is, academics is often just enough, but usually for subjects like architecture, people often needed to have like side projects or some kind of thing.
Not necessarily. My work is really fine art based.
Okay.
I did paintings, drawings, sculptures, devices, spatial design. I mean, on their website, they said do not do anything too architectural because they want you to be like plain and you know what I mean. They want you to learn everything architectural here.
Yep.
So when I saw that, okay, I might be the wrong person. I don't know anything about it. Yeah.
So Beijing has a lot of, like very iconic buildings. London as well is a city that is renowned for its architecture. How would you compare the styles of those two cities? And how would you recommend me, as someone who's from China and about to work in London, kind of like what mindset could you give me to help me appreciate the beauties of these buildings?
First of all, I cannot believe we are talking about architecture. But yeah, okay.
I'm trying. I obviously don't understand as much.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't know if I have the knowledge to answer. But they have really different vibe. From an urban planning wise, Beijing it extends in rings.
Yep.
We have 一环, 二环, 三环, 四环, 五环.
Yes.
And yeah, there's even a song made by this 环, if you heard of it.
Yes, I have.
I feel like London is more, like in general, more accessible by walking. So Beijing, you have this wide roads that only cars can go on, and you can't really walk on it. Yep. So you can observe it from a long distance, but there's limited pathway that you can walk on. But London, on the other hand, is not.
So do you find that, having now studied almost 3 years of your architecture degree, that when you go back to China, you see different things?
I would like to say yes, yeah. But I feel like when I was talking with my friends in the department, we all feel like, yes, we learned a lot. We've been here for almost 3 years. But we also feel like this, in a way, we didn't.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people say that about their degrees. They feel like they bullshit all the way here. Like, making up essays, like... And now we have ChatGPT.
Does that help architecture, though?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, so...
But, do you feel like these recent technological advances like AI, you're obviously noticing it, but do you think it would materially affect your pursuits in this architectural domain?
To be honest, not much, because our work stages are pretty fixed in a way. Yeah.
By the way, I do want to, it just reminded me that I do want to thank you for taking the time to design my manifesto for my presidential campaign for the Cambridge Union.
It was a pleasure.
It was so nice of you to take the time out of a busy and low term. I just want to take this moment to just thank you.
I wanted to support.
Yeah,
you deserve everything. You're so good at what you're doing. And I mean, other people have ideas. I have ideas. I have ideas all the time. But I never really, do it. But you did. So that's amazing.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. I also remember, actually, in my second week at Cambridge, in person, Easter, I was in my room at Memorial Court and I just get this call from you, and we hadn't even met in person at the time, and you just called me.
So what happened was, the architecture people, we were watching High School Musical in Rami's room. Hi Rami, if you're listening to this, I love you, hope you're doing well. So we were watching High School Musical, and when we get to the second movie, so we should probably take a walk. And we were in Clare. She goes to Clare. And we're walking around saying, do we know anyone? Because it was like first year, and it was COVID, so it was so bad. Like we didn't know anybody, and I just remember I had a short conversation with you through, is that IG?
Instagram.
Yeah, probably. So I'm like, okay, I know a person. What's his name again? Anyway, let's call him. So we call you, and you were like, oh yeah, sure, let's say hello. And 2 strangers just went into your room and said hi. I even have a photo somewhere.
Oh.
I swear I have a photo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
I was like wearing your helmet.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 11 p.m. or something, I think. And
quite late.
Yeah.
Quite late.
And it was like my second week at Cambridge, and I was like still trying to figure things out.
And you were talking with 2 other people about some big plans.
Big plans.
Always. Yeah.
Oh no, that's been wonderful. It's pretty cool to think back at how far we've come along the way and just how magical a place like Cambridge has been.
Yeah.
These kind of interactions I find just very special.
I kind of want to talk more on architecture since we started that.
Yes.
Because you asked me like what has this course changed me, and I said, in a way a lot, in a way not so much. I have theories that no experience is in a way sunk cost.
Okay.
Even though I've done an architecture degree, I may move on to something else. It doesn't mean I've done this for nothing. So
definitely,
yeah. I feel like this course, the amount of emotional damage it brought me, like it makes me really, I don't know what's the word, mentally stable. Yeah.
So, is it the workload, or is it the nature of the task, or just the intensity? Like,
It's mainly from the work, I guess, because when you're given a brief, when you're supposed to design spaces that contribute to the society, you can't always go with your own ideas. That's one of the reasons why my first year didn't go really well, is that I feel like I want to do my own stuff, but your standard of beauty is not what the exam board think. So they may give you a bad grade for doing that. So, yeah.
So, I mean, in retrospect now as a third year, do you think that their standard is actually the so-called right standard, or do you just think that they're 2 different paths and it's almost a bit unfair to judge everyone according to their standard?
To be honest, I will respect their standard because it makes sense. It judges you from your design, your accuracy, the detail of your drawing, such and such. Yeah, there's no right or wrong, but we're in uni, so there is a right or wrong for your exam, for your marking, and I totally respect that.
So, last week, Cambridge gave out a number of offers, obviously, for this admissions round. For the new architecture students who are coming in October, what advice would you give them then, now having done 3 years of this?
If they're coming this year, it's gonna be much better than what we've been through.
Yep.
Because architecture is a pretty interactive degree. And first year, it was lockdown. So we all worked in our rooms. That kind of format our year's like working habit. Because right now, we're in third years. And there are second years and first year working happily in studio. And there's our year. We're all working in our own room. But we're getting used to staying in the studio. So, enjoy the course, I guess.
In fact,
embrace the critiques
and the emotional damage.
Yeah, and work hard. Enjoy the course. The course is good. Yeah. That's
good advice. I mean, you touched on like the interactive elements, and in fact, I remember like hearing from people like Letty or Coco that we went on this trip. To London or wherever, and they all said very good things about you, of course.
Thank you guys.
How does the interactive elements of architecture work?
Be in studio. Honestly, be in studio. Studio is a great place to work. Work with your friend, and that's you just see more things. Yeah.
And I think everyone doing architecture is so cool. Every architecture student I've met is just so creative and so just interesting. I want to understand a bit more about how you develop like your skills.
Yeah.
So if I recall correctly, your mum was a presenter.
Yeah.
In China.
Yeah, she's a television presenter.
I mean, I can somewhat see the parallel between that creative side and your kind of pursuits. So how did you begin your artistic kind of journey?
From a really young age, I know how a production works. It's not just the final stage when you get to present it. It's the work before that, where people have written for the script, how the camera is in position, such and such. So I know that since it's more complicated than it looks, that's the way to explain it. So yeah.
So did they encourage you to focus on this journey and this process? And
my parents are really supportive. So we're really happy about me doing architecture. They feel like it's a good combination of art and science and logics and creativity. Yeah.
What kind of now that you're a young adult, if you reflect back to your childhood, like what were the things that your parents really valued? Perhaps any traits, any values, any characteristics? What did they care about?
Yeah, I feel like my parents had great impact on building my personality. Like I mentioned in my intro, like the right amount of confidence, the appropriate level of confidence. So they always encourage me to do stuff, and at the same time they kind of remind me there'll always be people who are better than you. So be confident, and when you fail, it's all right. So kind of like embracing that kind of mindset. I have like so-called deep conversation with my parents once in a while. So for my dad, we normally talk about the tough stuff in my life, because he's the one who is helping to solve his problems, giving valuable insight while being calm. So if something happened to me that makes me really sad, for example, like when I'm here, I call my mom, say I'm sad, and she's gonna be sad as well because she's my mom and she cares, and there'll be two sad people, so it kind of doubles. And that's the same for happiness. So when I have a happy news, I tell my mom, and she'll be like so happy for me. So like whatever I tell my mom, it kind of
compounds.
Yep, into two. That's why I tell her happy things. And on the other hand, my dad, he's a really calm, sensible guy. So when I tell him a great news, he stays the way he is. So he's still calm, and it kind of halves the happiness of mine because he's so calm. And that applies to sadness too. So when I was like so sad about something, I'm so confused about something, and he's there being calm and nice and tell me what to do. So the sadness is halved. You know what I mean? Like double, half. So that's why I mostly talk to my dad about troubles, and I talk to my mom about all the good things, positive things. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, the sad stuff would be great for a documentary, while the happy stuff would be great for presenting.
Oh my god, yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so the right amount of confidence, and I also know that you really value this ideal of being a strong, independent woman, and now you're obviously president for the Cambridge University Chinese Undergraduate Society, CCS. Do you want to elaborate a bit more on your personality and the person who you almost want to be?
Well, CCS has a great vibe.
Yep.
I feel like there are multiple types of leaders. Some of the leaders, they know their team really well, so he or she would know who suits the best for doing certain stuff. But as for me, it's more like I do it with my team. So we're like together. And you know the word 以身作则 in Chinese. So like
lead by example almost.
Kind of.
Yep.
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff with our committee members. Pretty much just a lot. And so far we've been pretty decent with our event. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Are you gonna join us on Sunday? We're having a 元宵节 New Year fair.
Oh, I'd love to. When is it? This Sunday?
This Sunday.
Okay.
The 5th of February.
Okay, I'll try my best. I'll get the details off you after this.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's 以身作则. It's really interesting. I think it's also a part of my ideal as a leader. Like one of the lines that I love from basketball, I think Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant said, basically along the lines, I'm paraphrasing that, I'm an intense guy, I'm competitive, I demand a lot of other people, but I will never make others do what I myself am not willing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like you, by being a part of a team and really getting your hands dirty and doing the grunt work as well, you're a part of the team rather than being on top of other people.
Oh yeah, of course. I love my team so much. They work really hard for our events.
So what is kind of the purpose of CCS? Is it just to create a community for Chinese undergrads, or are you trying to promote cultural values, or, you know, what would you say is your vision as president?
You just said it all. It's basically two things. One is to give a sense of community to especially freshers. So when they come into a brand new environment, they have...
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. So they have a place where they feel the belonging.
Yeah.
And we try to keep that going along the journey of Cambridge, I guess. You can always choose to come to an event, reunion with your friends, and you go back to your life, go back to your friend group, keep dealing with the emotional damages. Yeah, you know.
Are there any like particular great memories you've had being president of CCS, or what are you proud of in terms of your leadership?
We hosted a good orientation camp this year.
Okay.
It doesn't mean the previous ones are not good. It's just under all these rules and how do you say it? So under all these restrictions, we managed to hold a decent no camp in Nanjing, and it was nice. It was nice seeing everyone. And
so OCamp, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically you hold it in China and all the offer holders would come along for that.
Yep.
A weekend or a week of...
it's normally 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful because it's such a great chance to meet people before coming to uni.
You travel around the city, know a bit about the city, and you have a formal dinner, and you go clubbing, whatever you want to do.
And you organised it?
Yes. So we organize it every year. So that's one of the main work of Team CCS is every year's orientation camp. So it's really interesting because I was a fresher, like attending this camp.
Yeah.
And last year I hosted it with Carrie. So Carrie Zhang.
Oh, Carrie Zhang, sorry.
I assisted her work. And this year I'm hosting it. So to see the progression and see how I can do a nice thing to see. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned in our previous chat is, you know, this move from China to UK has reshaped almost your conceptualization or understanding of beauty.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so when I was back in Beijing, my standard of beauty is almost shaped by what everybody around me thought. So I hear other people saying stuff, I see stuff online, I talk with my friends, so such and such, you know what I mean, all the ways that you gain information. Yeah, I feel like I had this typical, I don't know, Asian standard of beauty. I've been told, I've been educated that, not educated, but I thought, like, you have to be slim to be beautiful. But it's so not true. It's like, so not true. I mean, growing up, having a stomach problem, I am slim. So that kind of make my life easier. Like, going around and stuff, and being complimented, say, oh, you're real pretty, you're so slim. These two things are always like linked together, but it's just not right. 就是因为大家都在说瘦才好看，所以那些 naturally 不是很瘦的人就不觉得，他们就不觉得自己好看。
Right.
If they're not confident with themselves, how do they
flourish and do well?
Yeah, obviously I can't say that in Chinese.
Yeah. So I guess you're trying to say, like, society has seemingly placed this arbitrary definition of what beauty is, and most people obviously don't necessarily fit that, and it's a shame that lots of people struggle with their body image because of something quite arbitrary. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, because I, grew up a bit in China with a Chinese family speaking Chinese at home, and from my understanding, at least my experience, the Chinese culture tries to see the character in people, the way people act, the manner with which they hold in. Like, I've never been told that beauty is a particular form. It's more the person, how they act, their character, their integrity, their actions. And I was just wondering, like, where did you get this understanding that, for example, that beauty is being slim? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's in my life every day. I hear things every day, and
but that's also the case in Western
if you
societies,
analyze, right? If you analyze how your peers commenting on your other peers, it's all about who is slimmer than who else.
But that's the social. The social death, not the actual cultural, like the education system and the best of Chinese values do not state that. It's more of a social manifestation.
Of course, yes. It's not that we're educated to think that slim.
Exactly, because we're educated to see the whole person.
Of course. It's just what kind of happened.
Okay.
As a phenomenon.
Okay. But this kind of social manifestation also happens in the West as well, you know, body image. And so why was it that you come to the UK and all of a sudden you're able to see the full breadth of humans?
So it's more like, okay, here we have a social manifestation in China, and here we have another social manifestation in the UK.
Yeah.
And probably somewhere in the States we have another one. So if every single place has their own manifestation, none of them matters. They kind of just cancel out.
Oh, so it's like being in a different environment, you see how arbitrary things are, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah! Thank you for taking me through. That was a tough journey.
So I think that's... Okay, that's actually quite insightful and quite beautiful, actually, that by recognising the subjectivities that we all have...
Yeah.
And you can only recognise it by stepping outside of your bubble to see that there are other ways to live, other ways to interpret things, that it liberated you to have your own interpretations and to value people. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I really like that. So, being a young woman, and we talked about this beauty standards and everything, what would you say are like your current mood or feeling about beauty in general? Like, you know, if you get what I mean, like just continue on this theme and just being a young woman, like as a young man, like is there anything that you feel like I should be aware of, that I should educate myself more so that I can better empathize and better support my female friends and female members of the community?
That's such a great question.
Or what would you want from your male friends?
Oh, my male friends are pretty respectful, which I'm really thankful. Thank you, male friends. I feel like be supportive in what your female friends are doing. If they have an idea of what they want to do, 就是与其去 focus on 他是什么样的，可以更 interested in 他想做什么事情。
Okay.
Just something like that.
Okay, yeah. So just empathy, yeah.
Not necessarily empathy, 就是
I
don't know.
Okay, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, that's interesting. So would you say that you currently have the confidence?
The confidence of, like, in general?
Just confidence in you. Like, how out of 10, how confident are you at the moment?
Oh, a solid 7.
Okay, well, why are we not in 8, 9 or 10?
Well, just like I mentioned, I would like to have the appropriate level of confidence.
Okay.
Not being so, like...
Not being arrogant.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yep.
Knowing what I can do and knowing what I can't. I feel like that's a really comfortable position.
Yep.
In Chinese, we call that 中庸.
中庸.
中庸之道. Yeah, so...
So what are kind of core, like, books, texts, or messages that have really shaped you growing up? Because when I think, like, about the Chinese culture, like, my first for years. Like I listened to a lot of Chinese history, like 评书, like 三国, 水浒, 岳飞, Yang Jiajiang.
I heard 岳飞. I was so mad that how this hero died.
Passed, yeah, with his son, 22.
Yeah!
It
my
really,
God.
it was heartbreaking as a kid. Like I was so enamored in the whole, and I thought that was almost like my first value system, almost, of, you know, their loyalty.
Yeah, I know.
Their sense of service to their country, their care and concern for the community.
Yeah.
Their gratitude for their teachers, for their parents, the kind of...
It's a test, right?
Yeah, it's a test. So the kind of how to be a good person, I think I got that from the Chinese culture.
Yeah.
Did you have any like cool texts or messages or stories that really influenced you as a kid?
Oh, for sure. Have you heard about 弟子规?
No, I haven't.
弟子规 is a really traditional educational text that kind of tell you how to be a good person.
Okay.
So it tells you how you should treat elderlies, how you should be with your friends and brothers, and also 论语. I mean, these two are really classical. I've learned them when I was much younger, and I forgot about pretty much all of them, but they're kind of within me in a way. Yeah. So I really like the sense of 孝道 in Chinese culture, where you be respectful to the elderlies, no matter if they're related to you or not. I really value that. I feel like that's really an important properties within a person.
Yeah, definitely. Just how it's just really feeling that like for me, like when I look at my parents, you know, the amount of time and effort they devote to their parents, it's really beautiful part of Chinese culture. And you know, like for me, I can't imagine just sending my dad to like a 养老院. I don't know what the English is.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like you want to care for them, and you want to. Yeah, it's that feeling. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah,
you just know it.
I know. It's
that love
not gonna happen to me either. Yeah, it's not gonna happen to my parents either. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Which I think is slightly different to the Western. At least how. Yeah. Okay, that's really beautiful. So building on that, who are your like role models or people who either a celebrity, either someone close to you, who do you look up to as an example or model who you follow basically?
I learn a lot from people around me. I learn a lot from you, from my close friends, and I would probably mention George. So we both go to Trinity. He does economics, and because we spend a lot of time together, so the way he does things, the way he thinks, inspire me a lot. So in a way, he makes me less 天马行空 with my life. What's the word for that? 天马行, like random. Like
more grounded.
Yeah. So he follows his strong logic, which I can see how he progressed from one idea to another. Whereas like before having him in my life, I'm just whatever I think, I go on with it. I should be more sensible towards the decision I make, which I think he inspired me a lot.
So I guess, you know, as we said, the one of the core purpose of the podcast is to give you a legacy-worthy interview, to just capture a snapshot of who you are so that we can look back on this in 10, 20 years' time. Is there anything else that you want to be included in this recording, or else I've got a couple final questions and then... Okay.
I can't think of any.
Final question, and a typical final one. What's one message, quote, or saying you wish every educator would promote and every kid would internalize? Your final word on the podcast.
I would say take your time and do things in your own pace. From planning to construction to, for a project or a personality to exist, do it in your own pace. Don't be rushed by others. Yeah. Very
wise words, and I guess I just want to thank you again for all the positive interactions that we've had. You've always been someone who I've seen as very creative, very bubbly, very a very deep and creative thinker, and I've enjoyed kind of seeing your progresses with architecture and other things, and your leadership with CCS, and again, you know, the time you spent to help me with my presidential manifesto, for example, among other things. I've deeply appreciated. So thank you so much for being the person you are. And
thank you so much for having me. I was so nervous that I wouldn't have much to talk about, but wow, that was a great interview. Thank you for digging them out.